大家好. Today we're going to recap week 6 of Wushu52, and I'm going to be honest with you, it was a rough one. Are you ready? Are you sure? All right, let's go. And when I say it was a rough week, I really mean it. The last few days were okay, but the first 4 or 5 days were pretty brutal. And what this week really taught me was the importance of rest, sleep, and recuperation, especially when you're doing Wushu at the ripe old age of 52. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Mark, and this is my weekly Wushu training recap as part of Project Wushu52, my 52-week program to get back into Wushu training shape at the ripe old age of 52 during the year 2022. I also post up a lot of other Wushu related stuff, so if that's interesting to you, go ahead and subscribe down below. I also just want to mention that my voice is a little bit off right now. It's kind of scratchy, so I don't know why. Maybe I've been yelling Jayo to myself too many times during training, but excuse the scratchiness. On Monday night, I had to work quite late, until about 3 a.m. to finish up a project that I had a 4-hour presentation for the next day. I was doing a workshop and training for a new client, so I only got about 4 hours of sleep that night. And you know, when I was younger, even into my early 30s, pulling an all-nighter wasn't an impossibility. Back in college, I could pull an all-nighter, or even in high school, I could pull an all-nighter with very little impact on the next day. The following night, I'd have to get some decent sleep, but I could still pull an all-nighter and function like a human being. But that stopped being the case like a good decade or two ago. And now, if I try to pull an all-nighter, or even sleep past midnight, it wipes me out completely the next day, unless I sleep in until like 11 o'clock or something. Not only that, but now it wreaks havoc on my immune system and my physical health. It just really stresses the body. And that's basically what happened on Tuesday. I was so wiped out after staying up late working, not getting enough sleep, the long half-day meeting, that by the time the evening came around and I was in the car on the way to the park to train, I realized this was a bad idea. I was just going to make myself worse. It was true. The next day, my ankle was super swollen. I could barely walk. I was back on the cane again. And so rather than train on the Wednesday for strength training, I just decided to rest until Saturday. I was just going to focus on recuperation, getting more sleep, and really just getting ready so I could do Wushu again. So rather than train, I did other things. I focused on my mobility. I started building up a new mobility routine. I did some deep diving into mobility training on YouTube, and a lot of it has to do with my hip flexors. They're both weak as well as not very flexible, and my glutes are very weak too. That's why my side kick is so bad. My psoas muscle is also pretty weak and very tight. So I started putting together a routine that would specifically target those areas, and a lot of those muscles are related to the side splits. So I'm sort of doing a side split / hips and psoas combined routine, and some work on that iliacus. I barely know what an iliacus is. I just like saying that word. So I also did some initial measurements to sort of see where my baseline is right now. I'm going to post some of those up so you can see what it looks like right now as far as the angles of my center splits and some different kind of just seeing where the placement is on different things. And this is going to be on top of my daily mobility training. I still do that in the mornings. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm starting to see some benefits from that as well, especially in my quads. The flexibility of my quads is improving. My ankle flexibility is starting to improve a bit. So that's been really nice. I'm also noticing as I get stronger with the strength training that my stability when I'm walking is improving too, which is really cool. I'm even able now to walk with my feet facing forward instead of doing this kind of pigeon thing that I was doing because of weak muscles. So even though it may not be noticeable with the training, I'm noticing a difference in just how I feel in general. And I know that eventually that will translate into the training itself. So by the time Saturday finally arrived, I was definitely feeling a lot better. My swelling had gone down, I was rested up, and I had more energy than I probably would have if I had trained on the Tuesday and Wednesday before. And because I'm feeling stronger and a little more energetic in the beginning of my workouts, I tend to push myself a little bit more than I have been before. And as a result, because my endurance is not so great, I get tired really fast too. So by the time I get to like my combos, I'm already pretty wiped out. I peak pretty quick right now, at least until my endurance improves. I was watching Rebecca Chin's training video that she posted up the other day. She and I think Roger and I are one of the few Wushu vloggers I follow. Are there any other Wushu vloggers? If you're a Wushu vlogger, let me know. Let me know if you post up your training. I'd like to watch it. It seems like there aren't that many of us out there. I mean, there are people who post up training on Instagram and stuff, but I'm talking Wushu vloggers, like a vlog. Okay, that's a tangent. Let's get back on track. So I was watching and I was seeing that, yeah, she said she cut out some of her like sitting there with hands on the knees kind of stuff. But still, she's able to get through a lot more lines of stuff than I am. Like, the amount of time it takes me to recuperate from one line of basics is essentially like the time it would take most people to do 5 more lines of basics. But that's okay, it's getting better. I'm stronger now than I was. My endurance is better than it was. During the standing basics, I did start to remember to exhale. Let's take a look at the video itself. So as usual, I started off with warming up my joints, checking the time, looking around the sky, looking cool in sunglasses. I don't know what I'm doing. But let's get through this part quickly so we can get to the interesting stuff. Then of course I did a bit of stretching, head to toe. The ground was a little muddy here, so I was trying not to grab my whole foot, but I think I still got dirty fingers anyway. I wanted to do some glute work, so I did a bit of these leg raises in the back just to help a little more with the flexibility and mobility. Stretching out the shoulders. And I also did the piriformis stretch for both sides, just to really open up those hips a bit. Yeah, oif is right. Then it was time to do my standing basics. Like I said, I remembered to actually breathe, exhale a bit when I was doing these, but for some reason, you'll see with the kicks, I just have a block, mental block. I can't remember to exhale when I kick. It's interesting, when I look at these now, I don't feel like I'm necessarily improving much, but if I do a side-by-side comparison to what I looked like the first time I did these back in January, a month and a half ago, I can really tell the difference. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to tell the difference a little better without having to refer to like the old footage. Well, maybe that rest would be good because I feel stronger than I have in a while, which is good. Next, I did a little bit of stretching. I was actually waiting for someone to show up, but I guess the parking was bad, so he wasn't able to make it. So it was just me again on the Saturday, which again is fine because I still have to train regardless. But I thought I would wait before starting basics and stuff in case he showed up. So I was doing this, it's called a couch stretch, basically like a quad stretch, kind of leaning my butt towards my foot that's against the tree to really open up those quads that are super tight. And just trying to work on those front splits too, as much as I could. You can't really see it too well because of the camera angle here, but just working on my splits. First I did some loose kicks just to warm myself up. Again, I was still waiting for someone at this point. He hadn't let me know that he wouldn't be able to make it yet. So I was sort of just trying to keep myself warm without actually doing basics. So it looks like Isaac couldn't find parking, so he's heading back home, unfortunately. But that just means I gotta get off my butt and start doing my basics. So I did my stretching, I did my standing basics. Next I gotta do my kicking basics, then I'll do my stance. No, first is stances, then kicking. Where's my paper? Standing, then kicking, then stance work. Okay. So I'll do my kicking basics next, and then I will do my stances. Definitely feeling better than I was before. I did one line and I realized, oh, the camera angle is really bad, so I actually went back and did another line. Then I did side stretch kick. inside kick. This was the first day I was able to do the kick on the other foot without any issues. You could tell I'm not used to it, and it did tweak a little bit, but it's way better than it was. Same with the outside kick. You can tell my right kick has gotten a lot more practice than my left. The left is much weaker. I was trying to remember to keep my elbow in, but I can still see, especially at this angle, that it's coming out a little bit on the side when I punch. Especially on our right side, but my left side in the video. And then I did my side stretch practices, just sort of working that muscle that doesn't exist in my body for some reason. You can see it's not even like parallel to the ground, it's like at a downward angle. But man, this is a hard one. It's really painful because I just have no strength at all in that direction. Then it's time for the, I think it's the Hung Ding Tui, the side nail kick. And then it was time for Dan Pai Jiao. Not too terrible. Getting some decent pop on the top. Alright, stance work. As he said, stance work. So I worked on my mabu, and I didn't go for time. Instead, I decided I would work on kind of getting in and out of the position to warm up my joints. So after I held it for a little while, then I started doing sort of pop up quick and then slow down in to the mabu, and then pop up quick and slow down into the mabu again, just to warm up my hips and my knees and those muscles to be a little more responsive. Because at some point, you're not going to do a whole form of just standing in a mabu. You're going to have to actually go from a mabu to something, or something to a mabu. So there needs to be a transition there. So I have to get used to getting into the position and going out of the position, not just holding the position. So that's something I'm going to start to incorporate a little more. And then I use this tree for stability for my pubu. I can't really hold a pubu on my own yet very well, at least not this low. So I have to use the tree just to make sure that I'm not killing myself. Then I was doing some empty stance holding, getting a little bit stronger, but still a lot of work to do. And then I topped it off again with high stance holding, just working on my balance, working on the stability of my ankles, working on the hip flexor strength. When my ankle gets a little bit better, I also want to incorporate some other stances that are challenging to do right now because of my ankle, but eventually I think I'll be able to start working on those as well. Then it was time to work on combos. Of course, the first one, and the only one I did on this day, is the Zachuan Dan Pai Jiao Wulun Panda. And I was really happy with how this one went because I actually did a pubu. It was the first time doing this into a pubu since I started training, so I was pretty happy. Now, it's not a good pubu, it's pretty high, but it's a pubu, so that means there's room for improvement. I can still keep upgrading it to the next level. You know, how I felt on Saturday reminded me of a story of when I was training with the Shanxi Wushu team. I remember one time there was an intense training workout and I was pretty exhausted, so I gave myself a couple days to recuperate before I went back to train again. I think I was around 41 or 42 years old at the time. At that time, Yuanming, who's a Nanchuan athlete, was coaching the group that I was with. And I was feeling really good because I took a couple days to recuperate. But then when I was working out, he said to take it easy and not do some of the exercises. His reason was, well, you haven't been here for a few days, so you're not in good enough condition to do some of this work, which is ironic because I felt like in way better condition than I did the last time I was there. And I realized that I think a lot of coaches and maybe athletes in China have a skewed perspective, at least when they're new to coaching or just getting out of being in that competitive environment. And that's a skewed perspective on the recovery period for an athlete, especially with regards to more mature people like myself. And yeah, for kids, as you're training, your recuperation is very fast, even into your 20s, especially if you've been training twice a day, 11 times a week for your entire childhood, pretty much. And it's probably true that after a few days, their ability starts to deteriorate because they're not training consistently. But when you're older, overtraining is a real danger. The body isn't able to recuperate so quickly, so you can keep training so fast. And paradoxically, if you give your body more time to rest, it's actually much stronger when you come back. I mean, we all know this because we're probably older people in this group, or at least we're familiar with how older people need to recuperate. But it was really interesting to me that, oh, he doesn't realize that actually this was good for me not to train for 3 days. And so I think that by not training on Tuesday, it also helped me a lot. And I probably wasn't quite in shape enough to do twice a week trainings. Probably once a week would have been good for the first month, and then maybe twice a week for the second month, maybe 3 times a week for the third month. Because I've been doing twice a week training, it was probably just a little bit more than I was able to adapt to. So taking this break this past week did help me adapt, I think, a little bit faster. I guess there's sort of an SRS system in place here. That's spaced repetition system, if you're not familiar with memory and language learning and stuff like that. Basically, it's a period of time of adaptation before you have to remind yourself of something again. Sort of similar, you have to have a period of adaptation for your body to recover so you can train again. And that SRS period, that period of rest, is different based on a lot of factors: age, physical condition, etc., etc. So right now, I think I'm at a 2 times a week period. That's my current SRS framework. And I'm hoping that over time, maybe in March or April, I'll be able to start going up to 3 times a week and be able to recuperate pretty well. So right now, 2 times a week, Wushu training, 2 times a week, strength training. I'm going to stick with that until I feel like it's not really helping me progress, and then I'll add in another day of Wushu training. On Sunday, I did my strength training in the morning, and like I said last week, it's pretty much the same thing every single time, and it's kind of boring to watch, so I'm not going to show you that. And in fact, I didn't even record it, so it's not, I can't show it to you anyway. But if you really want to see what it looked like, just watch last week's, because I did the exact same thing this Sunday that I did the Sunday before. I am feeling stronger, and that's great, but I did the same thing. So this was week 6 of Wushu52. What were the good and the bad points? Well, first, obviously, the bad stuff was the lack of sleep. Just realizing the importance of sleep was really a good reminder to myself. I mean, I've been saying it this whole time, right? I've been saying I need to have more consistent, regular sleep. I don't have any devices with me when I go to bed. Usually I have my phone there for the alarm. In fact, I bought an alarm clock from Amazon that's just an alarm clock. It's like a sunrise clock, so it increases the light slowly to help you wake up, and also has the sound of nature to help you wake up. It's very soothing. It's really nice, actually. But I keep my phone and even my Apple Watch at my desk charging overnight, so I don't get any interruptions at all. And I've noticed it actually helps with the quality of my sleep. I am more committed than ever to making sure that I really get a good night's sleep every night. At least 8 hours. That's my goal. And also, I really noticed this week specifically the value of mobility and the value of training strength. And I'm starting to see a lot more where my specific deficiencies are and where I need to work on them and how to work on them. Because I think even now at 52, after 20 something years of Wushu, I'm still learning things about how to train more effectively, how to help my body recover more effectively, how to help it improve the range of motion and flexibility and mobility more effectively. And it's nice to be able to still be learning things about myself through this journey. And this is only week 6. I can't imagine when I'm going to have learned about myself by week 52. And I'm also realizing that my lack of mobility and my lack of strength in certain areas is probably for sure what caused almost all of the injuries I've ever had with Wushu. An injury is basically happening because my body is compensating for a weakness or a lack of mobility in some area. And so by focusing on making sure I'm strong and mobile in all the areas that matter, the Wushu that I train will not injure me nearly as much as it would have. And I'm being very careful with how I train, so I'm going to make sure I don't get injuries in the future. My plan for week 7, which I can't believe is already here, is as always, to be working on my mobility and my sleep and really focus on those. Second to that is nutrition and portion control. Two things I really need to work on. You know, I haven't spoken too much about my nutrition plan here. So that's something I'm thinking about how to explain and how I'm going to present it in a future video. And if you would like to be aware of those future videos, be sure and like, subscribe, hit the bell icon notification thingy down there, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And yesterday I posted up a video of my time. In fact, it was the last time I trained with a professional team. It was training with the Shanghai team in December of 2012. You know, I have to say, I'm really glad that I'm on this path. Even just 6 weeks ago, I don't think I realized just how much things would change for me over the course of these last 6 weeks. And again, I just have to give a big thank you to everyone out there who's been leaving really nice comments and saying Jayo to me and just supporting me in this effort. I just appreciate it so much more than you probably realize. It's everything. And for those of you who have sent me DMs or emails about how I'm motivating you to train, I mean, that is supremely humbling. To know that I've had a positive impact on someone just through posting these videos is mind-blowing to me. So thank you for that. But that's it for week 6. Thank you for being here until the end of the video. Until next time, train hard. Jayo.